in front of the television and allowed our oppressors.
All right, so that was David Banner. Can you tell us a little bit about his speech yesterday?
Yeah, I like what he said because he dealt with education and how the elders have to take the responsibility back and take the pressure off of the young people, and that I agree with that a lot.
So, it always bothers me when I hear people saying that this generation is lost. And I'm like, well, who lost them? You know what I'm saying? Like, how your child get lost and you didn't do it, Like, what is our responsibility towards them? We owe them something.
Yeah. When the elders, I would just say straight up, sold us out for the dream of America, for the dream of integration, and left us hanging, kind of just threw us to the wolves to fend for ourselves and then blamed it on us as if it was our fault. And that's what kind of made me, draw to young people, because I said, well, damn, we don't even know. I know with my background, I know something, but at the end of the day, what if I didn't know this?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I just put myself in that pain of those young people out there on the streets that don't know. And that's what make me want to share it with them so they can become informed, and then we can organize around that information and actually do something about it.
Yeah, I love that. And like for me, I'm an English teacher, but I always taught, I taught social activism. I taught organizing inside my classroom. And it served my kids well. So my kids at Mount Zion, this is, they were the first kids in the nation to walk out and protest at the Trayvon Martin verdict.
Praise
and they, we connected with, I don't know if you met Malik Rasan with Occupy the Hood.
I've heard of Occupy the Hood.
Yeah, so we connected with them, and my kids were being persecuted by the school administration, and he connected them with, Michael Skolnick, and they published, one of my students wrote something, and they published it on Global Grind, they published it on, San Francisco Bay View, they published it on Occupy Wall Street Journal. Like, all these media outlets just joined together to help these kids, because they said, no, this is our right to do this. And protest is always disruptive. We're not, we were trying to be peaceful about it, but you pushed us this way, and so we took to the streets, and it was an amazing experience for me as a teacher, because I got to see all the things that I had taught them coming into play. So no, I didn't tell them to go do it, but they were prepared. So when the time came, they knew how to do it. So they had watched Chavez, they had watched the Children's March, they had watched, all these different things about organizing. And so when the time came, they knew exactly how to do it. And there were days inside that classroom, I was like, this looked like a Black Panther Party field office or something. But I, because I had modeled a lot of what I do as an educator off the Oakland school model that the Panthers had. So, they would put my chair in the hallway, and they would say, Mama, all my kids call me Mama, they would say, Mama, we're gonna put your chair in the hallway because we don't even want you to know what we're doing, that kind of plausible deniability thing. And they had, one group was looking at the student handbook, one group was looking at board policies, one group was contacting media. So, I didn't know what was going on, and then they were like, Mom, we're going on Channel 11 tonight, we're going to be on 11 Alive. And I was like, huh? And two of the kids had figured out who was going to, these people are going to be our spokespeople. And they went to the news, and they were on the news at night. And it was just crazy, like how everything, and I was just like, wow, But to see young people, they are so capable. And I would always say, if there's ever going to be anything of substance takes place, it's got to be young people. Because old people are too tied into the system. They're too afraid of what they're going to lose.
Yeah.
They're too scared of their student loans, or they're too scared of losing a house. But young people say, what can you do? You already don't have nothing. So I might as well go ahead and fight now if I want to have a better future. But old people they sell out because they're too tied to the system. You already in the matrix.
That's what is meant in the scripture about the Joshua generation.
Yes.
Slaying those giants. I kind of mentioned that yesterday, where these giants, we think of, giant people, but it's really giant responsibility or giant problems that we are too afraid to go and attack. So God summoned the young people, or the young people weren't afraid to go after that promised land. And so that's what we're currently in the time of the Joshua generation. We just have to tell them who they are and show them what their destiny is, and they'll do the rest.
I love that. So tell people how they can get more involved in Unite or Die.
You can be involved by going to our website, uniteordiecampaign.com. Again, that's uniteordiecampaign.com, and just sign up and register. Let us know what city and town or state you're in, and we can go from there.
And how can they follow you on social media?
You can follow me under my business name, Zario_the Mogul on Instagram, and Zario Sunrise on Facebook.
Okay. And so, I have a question. And this is, you can say no. But the show is about Black thought. And so, we've been talking about uniting or dying, right? And so there's this female that T and I came across on social media, and she hates black men. So her post come across as, I'm snapping back at these white chicks because they're dating all the black men. But then there's a lot of self-hatred in her post because she's like, I only want white men.
She's black.
She's a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that as a man? Like because clearly love is going to be a part of this revolution. The family unit is going to be a part of this revolution.
Mm-hmm.
How do we help kind of just root out some of that self-hatred that makes us turn on each other, that makes us think that if I'm going to find love and have joy, it can't be with somebody that looks like me. What do you think about that?
Well, love is the foundation of this movement. It has to be in order for it to work. And family unit is the foundation of a nation. So you got to have family, you got to have love, and it goes back to self-awareness, self-knowledge. We don't know enough about who we are for us to love ourselves. And we've been taught, that whole Willie Lynch syndrome about the man being taken out of the household and being made into like a stud. And she has, systematically been made to go and fend for herself and really off the hand of the enemy. So the enemy is her friend now. And then she see on TV things like Scandal and other things like that. So it's feeding the mind of young black people to where a 5-year-old child can be put dolls in front of them of black, brown, and white, and she's going to choose the white doll as a black young girl. So systematically they have made us to hate ourselves and love them. So I'm not surprised at what's going on. Underneath a lot of this is a lot of hatred for the black man.
Yes, it is.
Underneath a lot of this is hatred for the black man. So the black man has to be taught on who he is, put in his rightful place to help that black woman be what she's supposed to be.
Bae, what you think about that? We talk a lot about that. I know. Pop quiz, bae.
I'm just gonna agree with what he's saying. You always got that working and you
I always do that to him. When I see him busy, I'm like, hey, what you think?
You need to stop doing that. That ain't cool. I'm back here trying to make sure you have a great show.
I know. But yeah, and when I see stuff like that, I'm like, baby, like you have bought into every single thing that they've done. You know what I mean? Like I want to say, go watch Pruitt Igoe Myth or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, go do some research. Go find out why you feel like you feel about your brother. And understand that it's almost like something has happened, and so I'm gonna blame you for what was done to you, instead of helping you figure out, okay, I see it. This is a game that was played against both of us. We have a common enemy. Let's go back to back and fight this thing.
Yeah.
You are not my enemy.
Yeah.
We have an enemy, and it's our job to get together and combat the enemy. But we are turning on, like you can't. He's your only help.
It's all satanic at the end of the day.
Yeah. Like
God's order is man had a woman. God had a man. Man had a woman. Satan said, "No, I'm gonna reverse that. I'm gonna boss these women up out here, give them the jobs, give them the degrees." So now you look at your man, and he's being herded into jail or some type of criminal activity, or can't find a job, or don't have enough income, can't get a bank loan to start his own business. So he's out of a job, and you are making money, and this world manipulates income and social status and all these things. So we just have to take a deeper look.
Yeah.
And like I say to people, why don't you play the system against itself? Since if
I'm a firm believer in that. And I mean, honestly, that's why I became an English teacher, because I know, there's this Audre Lorde said that, the master's tools can never dismantle the master's house, but I believe that in order for you to fight the battle, you have to first study the play tapes. You know what I mean? And so language is the tool that they use to control and manipulate pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like, if I could teach my people this, then because that's what they do. That you can watch the media and just see the way they phrase stuff, and it'll just change the whole nature of the incident. And so I said, no, I'm going to teach my people to be literate. I'm going to teach my people these games that they play through this use of language. And that's why I became an English teacher, because it's important that we claim our own selves, that we begin to be able to tell our own stories. You know, and so when Frederick Douglass said, you know, I was no longer a slave when I learned how to read.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. And you got so many of our people who don't even value, but that's what I try to do.
Well, our founder and savior, Master Father Muhammad, told the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad that those who cannot speak the people's language well will not be successful with the people. So we got to know the language.
And I'm always amazed by people, because they'll say, well, you know, so for instance, I'm a Christian, and people will say, well, I don't, you know, that's the white man's religion. And I say, but you speak English, though. Like, you're giving me your argument in the white man's language. So if you're going to translate the Swahili or something, then we could talk. But there are lots of things that came from them. My personal relationship is my personal relationship with God. If I chose to be a Buddhist, that's not from my original people. You know what I mean? And so I think that you bought so much of who they are that you don't even realize you're using their language to talk bad about you. And I'm like, the rhetoric of it, y'all. Like, seriously, we have so much of the stuff that they gave us, we don't even know where it ends or begins.
We have to stop the bleeding. And right now we're bleeding out. And what I mean by stop the bleeding, that I wouldn't go to, or even the hospital. You go to the hospital and they're gonna say, what caused the problem? That's not the first question. Let's save their lives first. And so we in this country, and we have their language, we have their culture. We have to make it comfortable for where we are, but then get to where we have to be.
Yeah. I appreciate that. So on the line is T. T, you there, baby?
I sure am. Hey,
Hey, girl,
y'all.
what's going on?
Hey, so y'all having church up in there today?
Kind of, sort of, you know. I try to let
I've been in
T know
here.
she's not really religious.
I've been over here fanning myself for an hour now. Like, y'all telling some truths up in there today. Not that we don't every week, but it's just been really hitting my spirit today. Y'all doing it in there today.
Thank you, sis. What you got for us? I know you got some stuff.
Okay, so I really wanted, first of all, piggyback off of what you guys were just talking about. Was having a conversation about a radio show that we were listening to, and we'll let that radio show remain nameless. But there was a lot of practicing of racism's younger cousin, colorism, happening on this radio show. It was disturbing. And, you know, but not necessarily unexpected, because like the brother that's with you, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Zacharias Muhammad.
Okay. And I wrote down your Facebook page. I'm going to be following you as soon as I hang up the phone today.
Okay, I'll be looking for it.
But like you said, we're in a time of war. You know, this is wartime, and it's a war that's been waged for 400 plus years, 500 years. And what we know for sure when we talk about colorism is, you know, we have to remember the context of colorism. You know, I called it racism's younger cousin. And, you know, we have to remember that back when slavery, quote unquote, ended, there was a lot of not unintentional, what's the word? I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but basically thinking about the fact that slave masters, men and women, were raping slaves, men and women. But the majority of the people when slavery ended were still African people. That mixed race people were, like, I think I read somewhere, less than 2% of our population. And there's been a distinct movement since slavery, which basically has pressed us to breathe lighter. And there's a book called The Blacker the Berry by Wallace Thurman. It was written, I believe, in the 1920s, that covers this heavily. Also, the play by Zora Neale Hurston called Colorstruck, and she was actually basically booted out of the African American community after writing that play. And of course, now she's celebrated, but at the time that Colorstruck came out, she was definitely shunned from the community. And so I guess my point in all of that is that, you know, there is a root to colorism, and that we need to be aware of that. And also, you know, when we talk about education, when we're educating our children, helping them to understand white supremacy and how that manifests in our Black familial relationships, whether it's how we choose our mates. I have, well, we're not even friends anymore. She decided that we're not friends anymore, and I'm fine with that. But a former friend who has children who are on the spectrum from very dark to very light, almost white passing. And I made a comment to her about how, you know, that I noticed that she had different expectations of her darker skinned children versus her lighter skinned children. And that she just treated them very differently. And so, you know, like I said, we're not friends anymore, and that's fine. But I feel like as your friend, that needed to be brought to the forefront. So one of the weapons in the war on Black people, or the colorism war, is the one drop rule, and understanding that comes from white slavers. That's not something that African or African American people came up with. That's something that white people came up with to divide us. In that, you know, well, if you have one drop of Black blood, then you're Black. But I'm not necessarily comfortable with somebody who has one drop of Black blood representing me as a Black woman. I think that's another form of erasure. So, yeah, I just really wanted to speak to the colorism. I was so frustrated because I think the thread that I saw, there was a thread that went along with it where they were basically saying that light-skinned men are weak, and it was just, it's crazy. And I hate to see that coming from us when we already have a war outside of us that we should be fighting. We should not be fighting with each other based on skin color, and especially when we have to remember that African people are the original people. So everything that exists comes from us. Straight hair comes from us. Blue eyes come, like all of the, we can make a child with straight hair or blue eyes. White people cannot make a Black person with nappy hair. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I really just wanted to mention that because I was very, very frustrated by it. You know, and the other part of that is talking about the war on Black families. So a couple of weeks ago when we spoke, I was talking about how the current movement, that I was going to be referring to it as the resistance rather than the Black Lives Matter movement. And at that time, I wasn't even aware of. Have you visited the Black Lives Matter website?
No.
Okay, so this is something that just came across my timeline in the last couple of weeks. If you go to the Black Lives Matter website from the organization Black Lives Matter, and I have to say rest in peace to Darren Seals again. He was laid to rest this weekend in St. Louis. He was very vocal against Black Lives Matter, the organization, because of a number of different things. And I think you actually brought it to my attention one time, Shekema, about people such as DeRay McKesson, who, you know, is known for coming out of Ferguson, but, you know, is a part of the Black Lives Matter movement. And Darren was just basically talking about how, you know, a lot of people came there and built name and fame and took money off of Ferguson, but didn't do anything to put money back into it. But going back to Black Lives Matter, the website, the reason that I brought that up is because the people in the streets of Ferguson, prior to us ever knowing about Black Lives Matter, the organization, were shouting Black Lives Matter in the street. And they didn't know anything about the organization. That's an organization that's apparently been in existence, but now the media's kind of adopted that term and uses it as a blanket term for the movement. So it's two separate things. But if you go to Black Lives Matter, the website, and I bring this up speaking about the war against the black family. There is a list of guiding principles on their website, and nowhere on the website, or at least when I looked at it a couple of weeks ago, now maybe they've changed it now since there's been articles written about it, but there's no reference to black men or black boys on their website. The only place that it comes even close is when it speaks about trans brothers.
Yes. Yes.
Trans, you know what I'm saying? So that's concerning to me, and now it makes perfect sense why the media has adopted Black Lives Matter as its kind of blanket term, because, you know, again, we're in a war, and they always want to control the narrative. So I wanted to bring that to our attention. We need to go to the Black Lives Matter website, look at their guiding principles, and if there's still no mention of black men and boys, I think that that's something that needs to be critiqued and talked about in the forefront, because there is no black family without black men.
Right. Yeah. And T, we actually had a conversation about that chick that we found on Facebook, the one that only dates the white guys.
Uh-huh.
And you're right, I'm looking at the Black Lives Matter website, and it has diversity, globalism, black women, black villages, loving engagement, restorative justice, unapologetically black. Then it has, you know, the little handicap icon that says collective value, transgender affirming, empathy, black families, queer affirming, and an intergenerational.
Right. And even when they speak about black families, it talks about mothers, parents, and children, but it never specifically says black men. And I found that intriguing, to say the least. And you know, yeah.
But
that's,
there
you
were
gotta watch these devils, boy.
There were a lot of people who were saying that particular portion of the movement had been hijacked. You know, that it started out being collectively Black Lives Matter, and then it kind of morphed into trans lives and queer lives, and it had that whole, you know, like it had been hijacked. But your boy D-Ray, I don't know if we got to do some more research on this. I don't know if you heard about his recent. The home that he lives in is funded by
but it's owned by Soros.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, Black.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm chalking him up as a loss. You know, and that's unfortunate. And it's hard to say, you know, it's easy for me to say when nobody's throwing money at me. It's easy for me to say that I would be able to hold my principles and my morals, and, you know, and I really just feel like I love black people too much for, you know, to let that affect me. But that's easy to say when nobody's throwing money at me. But that was something that Darren Seals was very outspoken about. And a lot of people think that's the reason why he was killed. Because he went hard on them on Twitter. His Twitter feed is still up. If you scroll his Twitter feed, he went hard on DeRay specifically, and Black Lives Matter in general, just about how they hijacked Ferguson and made it about what they wanted to be about, and not about the people who were in the streets fighting that brought the attention there in the first place. So, yeah. And then the final thing that I have is actually well, it does have something to do with what we were talking about. Tyree King, the 13-year-old boy who was shot by police in Columbus a few days ago. I just saw a what is it called? A coroner's report, where they say now that Tyree was in the process of running away from the police when he suffered all 3 gunshot wounds. And now this is a 13-year-old child. You know, he's 5 feet tall, under 100 pounds. You know, the police say that he pulled a BB gun. First of all, I don't believe anything that the police say. So I can be upfront about that. But the fact that he was running away, and yet today or yesterday, a white kid actually shot a BB gun at police officers and, of course, was arrested. So the war continues. Yeah, it is what it is.
Well, T, you know.
I love the name Unite or Die. That's
Yes.
so true and so
Thank you,
critical.
thank you, thank
And my issue with Black Lives Matter is not them saying that black and queer and trans, that queer and trans and gay lives matter, because there are black people who identify as such, and I can't say that Black Lives Matter and not include those people. But my issue is making it solely about them and not about black people in general.
Comments for T.
So that's all I have for you this week, Mama.
Girl, I thank you. I think Zacharias has a question for you.
Well, no,
Sure.
I don't have a question. I was wondering, does she have a question for me?
Do you have any questions for him, T?
Not off the top of my head, but like I said, I'm going to follow your page as soon as I hang up the phone because I definitely want to hear more of what you have to say.
Yes, ma'am. Well,
Are you
thank
guys doing any work in Indianapolis? Because that's where T is.
We can start wherever the problem
Okay, and
is,
you
that's
know
where we
what?
wanna be.
That was actually one of my questions when you were naming off cities. I sure didn't hear Indianapolis in there.
No,
But yeah,
unfortunately.
I'll get on the website and link up. So I'm in touch with several different organizations here. So if we can get everybody linked up and on the same page, that's beautiful.
That'll be dope.
All right, thank you,
Yep.
baby.
All right, love you, sis.
I love you
Peace,
too.
y'all.
You know I'm gonna be bringing you some more mess this week, so watch your inbox.
I look forward to it.
All right, love you.
All right, love you too. Bye bye.
All right, Sanctuary family, we're gonna do a quick break just so I can detox a little bit because when I talk to T, I just kind of, And then when we come back, closing thoughts from Zacharias.
Yes.
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay, we'll be right back, Sanctuary family.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're now tuned into the very best. It's yours truly, Jazzy Fizzle. And this is In-State Radio, man. Tune in, baby. Oh, boy.
I thought, I got Zacharias Muhammad, sexy chocolate over here. I thought for the last little part of the show, I would allow you to ask me some questions. Do you have any questions for me?
How long have you been ministering?
So, officially about 2 years. Although when I was in the classroom, that's what we did. The kids would always say, like, we don't go to church, like we come here, and we would just talk about spiritual things, not Christian things, but spiritual things. They might come in and the quote of the day might be Buddhist or, Hindu, because wisdom is everywhere. You know what I'm saying? They might come in and it might be something like we had a classroom poem. It was in Lakesh, and that's Mayan, and it's just basically saying, you are my other me. If I love and protect you, then I love and protect myself. If I do harm to you, then I do harm to myself. And that's the way that, and they, they called each other brothers and sisters, and, that's just the way I did it. You know what I'm saying? And like there were days when they would come in and I could just feel like this heaviness, because I always taught 11th and 12th graders, so seniors would come in and they were dealing with being black, just this heaviness of blackness, and they had no idea what that was, Nobody at home was talking about it, but you can feel oppression, you know what I'm saying? You can feel, like people say, I feel like the man's got his foot on my neck, like you can feel it, but you can't really describe it. And that's the thing about racism, it's so tricky because it's invisible, but you can feel that thing, even your breathing is heavier. And so they would come in some days and they would just be so weighed down, and I would say, okay, you know what, just put your heads down, and I would play a song or something, next thing you know, everybody crying, like just heads down, and I could hear them weeping, because the pressure, and nobody just took the time to say, you know what, little black kid, it's okay. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to not feel strong all the time. It's okay. We got a caller? Okay. We'll take a call and then I'll finish answering the question. Caller, you're live inside the sanctuary.
Hello, hi.
Hi. How can we help you, caller?
Is this the radio station?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Well, how do I get on to listen to the interview that's going to be taking place tonight at 5?
What was the question?
How do I go on the internet to listen to the? I'm here in Baltimore, and I'm trying to go on to listen to the live session at 5. I think it's at 5 or 5:30ish.
Okay. So our website is instinctradio.net.
Instantradio.net. Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye bye.
That's okay. It's a radio station. As long as you get what you need, So yeah, and so then there were other days when I would say, y'all need to play, because black joy is forbidden. You know what I'm saying? So go outside, and we'll go outside to school, and I'll say, they're like, we want to play duck, duck, goose, or red light, green light. You know, and these are seniors, you know, and they would be out there in the yard, and we would just post pictures on Twitter of them playing, you know, and just all kinds of things. And I would, you know, I always told them that it was kind of like what you said earlier. One of my favorite quotes is Shekema, when he talks about how people think that revolutionaries are angry people. It's not anger that inspires you to revolt. It's love. It's a love for the people that you're fighting for. And you love those people so much that you cannot allow them to stay in those conditions, you know? And so love was just this big thing in my classroom. You know, we would always say we love each other, and, you know, they would get on Twitter and somebody would say, hey, Mama, I need help with my homework. And I would say, somebody help your sister. Somebody help your brother. And people were like, y'all are doing this on Twitter, you know? And that's just kind of, yeah. So I'm still like that, you know, even in church when I teach Sunday school or Bible study, I'm still like that. It's not, you know, it's more or less like, I want you to be a better person, you know? And these scriptures that we use are just for, it's to be a better you, and not to beat you down, and not to make you feel guilty about who you're not yet. You know, everybody's in the process of becoming. And I use a lot of stuff in my Sunday school and Bible study classes. You know, sometimes I'll come in and I'll say, let's look at this Buddhist text, or let's look at the Rig Veda, or, you know, whatever, because wisdom is everywhere. And so that's just, yeah. I know that was a long version of the story, but yeah.
That's good. That's good. That's good. So, what do you hope to gain with your influence, your knowledge, and wisdom? What do you hope to gain these days?
Man, you know, I always say get free or die trying, you know? And I think the thing that I want to gain is not, I want people to be better, you know? Because I do believe that even if we are revolutionary enough to kick down the doors, it's our character that's going to keep it open. You know what I'm saying? And I think we've seen that before. How people did all this stuff, and, you know, we're going to die in, and we're going to sit in, and we're going to get, you know, hot coffee poured on our heads at lunch counter. But then our character, once those doors were open, led us right back to where we were. And so I'll give you an example of, like, you know, in the Bible where Jesus says, you know, when you cast out these demons, you know, watch out, because 7 more are gonna come. And so this generation is those 7 more demons. You know what I mean? Like, so we are facing things that the civil rights movement didn't know all the men wear dresses. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't know, they didn't deal with that like we deal with that. You know, a man with more makeup on than me. They didn't have that problem. You know what I'm saying? And so our character is the most important thing to me. And so just to, like you said, you know, show our people who they are, not only in the natural but in the spiritual, the power that we have, you know, and we just walk around so defeated. Like the whole idea of somebody selling yourself back to you. How ridiculous is that? They shame your butt and then sell you your butt. They shame your lips and then sell you your lips. You don't even know who you are. You'd rather buy yourself from them than just look at yourself and love you in the mirror. And so to me, that's what I hope to gain. Just love, not only for myself but for you and for everybody else. And I think that when people begin to love each other, when we begin to respect each other, all the rest of that stuff will just fade away. But it's our character, man. It's our character. And I think we got so many people who are willing to fight, but like I said, your gifts and talent will take you places, but your character is what's going to keep you there. So yeah.
Well, I thank you for everything that you are doing and have done and attempting to do.
Thank you. I just had a great show today. And so, babe, the video that I wanted to show from StoryCorps, it's okay. I'm just asking because I wanted to show that next before we go on the break. And so I found this video from StoryCorps. I like to watch Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman. And StoryCorps it's a project. I think it's NPR. I don't know who it is. It may be NPR. But anyway, so they have this free thing, and here in Atlanta, it's at the Atlanta History Center, where you can go in with somebody and you can tell their story. So like we could go in and talk about how we met, and like what is your life like, you know. And it's almost like, remember how they had the slave narratives that they archived and they put them in the Library of Congress? It's the same thing, but it's a modern version of that. Like we could go in there and just talk about our lives. And it's so important that we tell our own stories, because we don't tell it. When those slaves told what it was like for them to be on those plantations, that was like the game changer. And I always used to let my students watch this thing called Unchained Memories, and it was an HBO documentary, and they had different celebrities reading the slave narrative. So Jasmine Guy, Oprah, Courtney Vance, and Angela Bassett, you know, people like that, they were reading from these slave narratives. And these kids were so astonished by it, because they were telling, like this one lady told a story of how her aunt, they sent the dogs after her, and they ate the breast off the woman. How do you hear that and not have it change you? The dogs chewed the woman's breast off because she tried to run or she didn't do what the man told her to. I mean, that kind of stuff. How do you not, in one man describing how his brother was beaten to death, how they beat him and then they rubbed salt in the open wounds from the whip, and so it's those types of things that, young people, I say this, there's a difference between anger and righteous indignation. Anger ain't gonna get you too many places. It's gonna burn you up on the inside before you actually get it out to do any harm for somebody else. But their righteous indignation, that's what you gotta have. And we have to allow our young people to feel those things. And so I would give it to them. When we read Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, you know what? We cannot read this novel and understand what he's talking about without also looking at the Scottsboro Boys, because that happened. He was 18 years old when that case took place. So you're a young black man, and you're seeing a young black man who's your same age going through all these things. So this is going to influence who you are as a writer for the rest of your life. It's going to influence you, And so the group of kids that read that novel, and then for them to be high school seniors when the Trayvon Martin thing happened, it made it so real to them because they were like, dang, this is like our Scottsboro Boys thing. You know what I mean? Like whatever it was, it made it so real to them. And so I wanted to show this because it's about the power of telling stories, but it's also, when you listen to the stories, it's just about humanity. And it's about one person just showing character and showing kindness to another. And I think when you listen to this, if we could get these types of things to take place in our community, most of our work would be done. Okay? No, from the beginning? Well, no. I love you, babe. Yes.
Project, history project. It's the largest oral history project in the United States. Interviews with their loved ones in StoryCorps booths across the country.
Now, StoryCorps has launched a new campaign called Who We Are to bring stories of hope and compassion, some with a surprising twist. One is the story of Bronx social worker Julio Diaz, who was coming home from work when he had an encounter with a teenager who held him up at knife point. This is the unusual way Julio reacted.
So I get off the train, I'm walking towards the stairs, and this young teenager pulls out a knife. He wants my money. So I just gave him my wallet and told him, here you go. He starts to leave, and as he's walking away, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, you forgot something. If you're going to be robbing people for the rest of the night, you might as well take my coat to keep you warm. So, he's looking at me like, what's going on here, And he asked me, well, why are you doing this? And I'm like, well, I don't know, man. If you're willing to risk your freedom for a few dollars, then I guess you must really need the money. I mean, all I wanted to do was go get dinner, and if you really want to join me, hey, you're more than welcome. So I'm like, look, you can follow me if you want. I just felt maybe he really needs help. So, we go into the diner where I normally eat. We sit down in the booth, and the manager comes by, the dishwashers come by, the waiters come by to say hi, So the kid was like, man, but you know everybody here. Do you own this place? I'm like, no, I just eat here a lot. He's like, but you're even nice to the dishwasher. I'm like, well, haven't you been taught you should be nice to everybody? So he's like, yeah, but I didn't think people actually behave that way. So I just asked him in the end, I'm like, what is it that you want out of life? He just had almost a sad face. Either he couldn't answer me or he didn't want to. The bill came, and I look at him and I'm like, look, I guess you're going to have to pay for this bill because you have my money and I can't pay for this. So if you give me my wallet back, I'll gladly treat you. He didn't even think about it. He's like, yeah, okay, here you go. So I got my wallet back, and I gave him $20 for it. I figure maybe it'll help him. I don't know. And when I gave him the $20, I asked him to give me something in return, which was his knife, and he gave it to me. It's funny because when I told my mom about what happened, no mom wants to hear this, but with her, she was like, well, you're the type of kid that someone asked you for the time, you gave them your watch. I don't know, I figure, you treat people right, you can only hope that they treat you right. It's as simple as it gets in this complicated world.
That's Julio Diaz, one of the many voices in StoryCorps' new Who We Are campaign.
And we end with another story that hasn't been released by StoryCorps yet. This is 9-year-old Aiden Sykes, who sat down to ask his father, Albert, a few questions.
Do you remember what was going through your head when you first saw me?
I remember when the doctor pulled you out, the first thing I thought was that he was being too rough with you. And he actually held you like a little Sprite bottle, and he was like, here's your baby. That was the most proud moment of my life. Don't tell your brothers, because it's three of y'all. But it was like looking at a blank canvas and just imagining what you want the painting to look like at the end, but also knowing you can't control the paint strokes. You know, the fear was just, I got to bring up a black boy in Mississippi, which is a tough place to bring up kids, period. But there are statistics that say black boys born after the year 2002 have a 1 in 3 chance of going to prison. And all 3 of my sons were born after the year 2002.
So, Dad, why do you take me to protest so much?
I think I take you for a bunch of reasons. One is that I want you to see what it looks like when people come together, but also that you understand that it's not just about people that are familiar to you, but it's about everybody. Did you know the work that Martin Luther King was doing was for everybody and it wasn't just for black people?
Yes, I understand that.
Yeah. So that's how you got to think. If you decide that you want to be a cab driver, then you got to be the most impactful cab driver that you can possibly be.
Are you proud of me?
Of course. You my man. I just love everything about you, period.
The thing I love about you never gives up on me. That's one of the things I will always remember about my dad.
Well, you said it like I'm on the way out of here, or like I'm already gone.
So, Dad, what are your dreams for me?
My dream is for you to live out your dreams. It's an old proverb that talks about when children are born, children come out with their fists closed because that's where they keep all their gifts. And as you grow, your hands learn to unfold because you're learning to release your gifts to the world. And so, for the rest of your life, I want to see you live with your hands unfolded.
That was 9-year-old Aiden Sykes, who sat down with his dad, Albert, to ask him a few questions. For StoryCorps, the largest oral history project in the United States. Special thanks to Dave Isay. We'll be playing some of these throughout next week. That does it for our show. Democracy Now! Produced by Mike Berkner, Mean Shake.
I was dope.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Just the power of just telling your story.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I was saying I thought it was a great way to end it, because we do a lot of speeches, we do a lot of rallies, but just sitting down, having conversations, because we're human, you know. And I think so much of our humanity is stripped from us. Our kids are not entitled to ask their dad, "Are you proud of me? What was it like when I was born?" Black kids do have daddies, you know what I mean? And so I just thought that was just really powerful. And the young man that said, "If you took all the time and trouble to do this, you must have really needed my help," as opposed to saying, "Get this Negro off the street." You know what I'm saying? If we could just do that, and I live like that, I really do. I'm always doing.
I agree. You do. You do. You're always giving.
I don't know any other way to be. You know what I mean? Because I'm blessed, and it's not always easy. It doesn't always feel good, but I'm so blessed. You know, and it just, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what a day would be like if I didn't buy something or give something away, or like, I don't even know how to live any kind of other way. And so when I saw what you were doing in the community, I said, how can I share his gift with the world? So, you know, maybe I can't donate $1,000, but I can put you on the air, and maybe other people will donate $1,000, or you know what I mean? Maybe 50 people will come on and everybody get $20 a piece, or however you want to do it. But so that was my gift to you. I said, I gotta have this brother on here so we can share his gift with the world. And so thank you for coming on the sanctuary today.
Thank you for allowing us on your platform.
Tell us one more time how we can follow you.
UniteOrDieCampaign.com, or send us an email at uniteordie@gmail.com. UniteOrDieCampaign@gmail.com.
Yeah. So this has been an episode of The Sanctuary, where the spirit meets the streets. I'm your host, Shekema Silveri, and I've had with me today, just a pleasure, Zacharias Muhammad of Unite or Die Campaign, and Bay.
I'm always here.
Bay always. Well, sometimes, you know, he left for a little while.
He left? 2 months. I had to go further my education. You can't blame me for that.
No, don't be.
Right. I mean, come on.
Bay.
I'm gonna say this right quick. I told you the system messed up on me yesterday. If I wouldn't have went to school a few months ago, I wouldn't know what to do to get it back online for you to do your show today. If I wouldn't have took them 2 months off, you wouldn't have been able to do this show. You'd have had to postpone. I'm just saying that's how things work. I'm just telling you, just how right. Cause if I didn't know nothing about, yeah, okay. You're mad at me because I go to school.
Okay, I mean, I know.
Like I can't go get no education or something.
It's all good.
I missed you though, so
I missed you too.
now?
That's why I'm mad. But it's okay. You back.
All
You
right.
gotta make up for lost time and stop being so managed all the time.
What did that? Anyway,
Don't laugh at it. Don't laugh. We joke like this all the time. But yeah, we'll be back next Monday with another wonderful show. It's gonna be my 1 year anniversary with Instinct Radio.
Congratulations.
Let's see if Babe bring me something nice. He on the spot now.
I'm gonna bring something nice up. Right. I'm sorry, I keep them thoughts myself.
Y'all pray for
We
him.
go. You do enough.
Black folk just-
You and my mama do enough praying. I think I got.
You covered. I'm serious.
Okay.
Yeah. You know how that work? Yeah. All right. We'll see you back here, same time, 3 to 5 Eastern Standard Time, live inside the sanctuary where the Spirit meets the streets. Have a
This is crazy important.
In the mix. The biggest station in the world. Playing all of today's hits. You're listening to